to Irene to see if there's any apologies. That's only a couple. Hello? Everybody hear me? Right, there's only a couple. 46. AGM apologies. Mrs. Kirkcaldy, 15 Anbank Place, 02. Davina Boyle, 164 Chauncey Street. Isabel McNeil, 1356 Liberton Street. Mrs. Scally, 94 Belgrove Street, flat 11. Mrs. Fotheringham, 15 Anbank Place, flat 11. Mrs. Forrest, 43 Garfield Street, flat 11. Mrs. Tannehill, 155 Reidvale Street, flat 12. Mr. McCarthy, 155 Reidvale Street, flat 12. Mrs. Dundas, 16 Anbank Street, flat 13. Mrs. Fullerton, 22 Whitevale Street. Mr. David Irving, 17 Garfield Street, flat 12. Mr. Robert Strain, 6 Anbank Place, flat 02. Mrs. C. McFarlane, 49 Garfield Street, flat 01. Miss A. McFarlane, 49 Garfield Street, flat 01. Mr. Osmond, 474 Duke Street. Mrs. McComish, 440 Duke Street. Mrs. Flynn, 78 Belgrove Street, flat 12. Mr. T. McInnes, 133 Reidvale Street, main door. Mrs. Hanning, 23 Garfield Street. Mrs. Stewart, 111 Sword Street. Catherine Smith, 49 Reidvale Street, flat 03. And Agnes Collins, 161 Sword Street. And they all wish to wear here.
Thanks, Irene. Could I have an adoption of the minute of the 36th AGM? I'll adopt. Christine. And a seconder, please. Okay. Is there any matters arising? No. Good. Now you've got to listen to me for about 10 minutes. This has been a challenging year in many ways. The general economic outlook is not encouraging, and the government's reforms to the benefits regime, including housing benefit, will make the situation worse for many people in the years ahead. We are monitoring the proposed changes to housing benefit closely and will do all we can to minimise the impact on our tenants. We are also assessing the benefits or otherwise of two significant changes to the association. These are seeking charitable status and deregistering as a social landlord. We believe the former would bring major benefits in relation to taxation and fundraising as we increasingly focus on strengthening our community and its facilities in addition to managing and maintaining the housing in Reidvale. The question of deregistering follows on from that to some extent. Registered social landlords are increasingly being treated as agents of government and subject to all the bureaucracy that goes with that. As a registered social landlord, we are required to accept as priority cases homeless referrals from the council, and the government is now attempting to require us to cooperate in housing sex offenders. If we wish to award a large maintenance contract, say for gas servicing, we require to advertise this through the official journal of the European Union. All this is because we are an RSL. We are therefore investigating in depth the implications of deregistration, and we will keep you advised of progress. One issue we have resolved is that there is no legal provision requiring the repayment of any grant provided for the works carried out in Reidvale. The website has attracted about 2,500 different visitors from 29 different countries and is getting nearly 70 visits a week. The Reidvale Centre goes from strength to strength, with the cafe proving ever more popular and the youth club picking up an award for the best youth club in the UK. The Reidvale community allotments have recently been spruced up and some big plots subdivided into more manageable plots, which have been allocated to more residents from the waiting list. The association spent around $278,000 this year on major repairs to our properties. We have now completed the installation of double glazing to all our properties, 7 years ahead of our original programme. We continue to make good progress on rebuilding our cash reserves, and this year's results mean that we anticipate reaching our target next year or the year after. Thereafter, we intend accelerating the programme to replace kitchens and bathrooms. The Reidvale Awards continue to be very popular and successful. This year's Education and Good Neighbour Awards will be announced and presented here tonight. I should also like to congratulate all of those of you who recently received your Reidvale Rewards check. About 74% of tenants received the full £100. Overall, 87% of tenants received at least 25. The committee has had to address a number of issues over the past year, and I should like to thank them for the time which they give for no reward to the association and for their commitment to making Reidvale a good place to live. As some of you may know, Jerry Benson, our housing service manager, has been off ill for several months. I'm glad to say she's on the mend and is back with us. I should also like to thank our colleagues, particularly Jim McAlpine and Michael McMenamin, who have stepped forward to take on much of her workload during her absence. I'm glad to see you all here tonight, and if anybody wants to consider putting your name forward for the election to the management committee, please speak to a member of staff or one of the committee members. Thank you. I'm now going to pass on to our Finance Officer, Jerry Shepherd, who will give you this year's accounts.
Can you hear me? There's a lot of narrative in annual accounts, as you appreciate, but there's two important features of the statutory accounts within the narrative, and it's the audit to prove that the accounts not just dreamt up by the committee, but in fact present the accounts for proper audit, third-party audit, if you like. And in the auditor's opinion, the accounts gives a true and fair view of the financial affairs at 31st of March 2012. Also, that we are compliant with the various acts and the Register of Social Landlords accounting requirements orders 2007. Okay, so that's quite an important part of the accounts. It gives us a seal of approval, if you like. Okay. Another salient major principal account is the income and expenditure account, page 8. There's been a couple of changes which I want to try and highlight as we go through this. Bottom line is that we generated £143,000 of a surplus for the year, 143. Now, we didn't generate in cash terms that amount of money, so I want to just show you what we actually did by breaking down some of the figures we have there, turnover and expenses, etc. It's all quite vague, that account. I want just to expand it a wee bit so you can better feel where the money comes from and where it goes to, and plus these accounting changes that will result in this theoretical surplus. Principal number there, net rental income, £2.492 million. That's the lion's share. That's what we live off. That's the lifeblood of the organisation. We have revenue grants, £33,000. There's some bank interest, £3,000, and agency income, £71,000, plus commercial and factoring, £57,000. So we generated £2.656 million. Obviously, we see there 2.5 of that is from rents. Okay, so that's what keeps us going. From that income, we deduct our management expenses, that's salaries and office overheads of just over £1 million. From that, we deduct £440,000 from reactive maintenance, planned maintenance £361,000, and components replaced. I'm highlighting that separately to show you that there are certain elements of a property that's been replaced in the year, windows and boilers, particularly in this financial year, totaling £226,000. You'll see why I've isolated this separately. £226,000 of component replacement in the year. We also have service costs. We have property insurance, £30,000. We have agency and commercial factoring costs, £117,000. And regeneration, police time, etc., £105,000. sundry costs 36,000, a bad debt provision of 17,000, taxation, 153,000 pounds a year. That's coming from this accounting surplus that's been generated, and it's annoying us a wee bit. We're going to deal with that in the longer term, hopefully. We have loan interest of 23,000, plus we have the loan principal repaid of 64,000. So when you deduct that expenditure from that income, we have a cash surplus in cash terms, nice simple cash terms, a small surplus of £4,000. Now that demonstrates that we're not setting rents way above just to generate surpluses. We, in cash terms, generated only £4,000 of surplus. However, a changing accounting policy, a statement of recommended practice came in during the year that requires us to capitalise those components that have been replaced. They want to see going into the balance sheet, adding on to the property value, the historical cost of the property. We didn't like it, we had to comply with it. So we add back the 226 of components capitalised, we add back the 64,000 is deducted from the loan, and then we've introduced this non-cash item of £151,000. And that gets back, when you add all these accounting adjustments at the bottom, we get back to the audited surplus of £143,000. We generated only £4,000 of a surplus in the year. These are purely a change in accounting treatment of certain components that have been replaced in the year. As I say, we didn't agree with it, but we've got to comply with the legislation, etc. So we had generated £143,000. You see that in the income expenditure account on page 8 of the accounts. We have reserves from previous year, £1.5 million, and we had a transfer from designated reserves of £657,000. These are all big numbers, but we're going to get real with all this stuff, and you'll see in the balance sheet just exactly how we measure our actual financial assets and liabilities. So we have accumulated reserves of £2.3 million to date, and you see that in the balance sheet. So that leads me nicely onto the next principal account on page 9, which is the balance sheet and the statutory accounts. So we'll flip over there. Okay, again, big numbers there, 33 million. Net assets, 3.6 after taking off grant, and these huge reserves at the bottom there. So I'll take the liberty just to take the same figures, round them to the nearest £1,000, try to get a better feel for what it is what we're looking at here. Big telephone numbers there, I don't think we'll inform you very much. Okay, so the reserves, that's lifted straight from the management, the statutory accounts, 915 of designated reserves, 202.3 million of accumulated reserves. This is £3.243 million of reserves. We have a deferred tax reserve, that's the deferred tax reserve that's been created by this component accounting change, and that will be reduced over the years, and hopefully we will take steps to probably get rid of that liability in the longer term. We have housing properties which are valued at about £2.5 million. That's the historical cost less the loan set off against it. So there's £2.6 million tied up in properties. We have other fixed assets at the Reidvale Neighbourhood Centre, and we have a loan against it of £270,000. So we've got £320,000 of other fixed assets. That leaves us with free reserves of £631,000. Okay? That is what we can put our hands on. That's what we have in debtors, £236,000. We have creditors, which are real creditors that will be paid within the next 12 months, of £477,000, plus our cash in the bank, £872,000. That gets back to total cash and near cash. And that's what we monitor. These are the important numbers that we monitor the management committee. What we have in cash and we can readily access for future major repairs. And what we're trying to do is get this total cash and near cash up to the designated reserve figure of £915,000. These other reserves are held in property and other fixed assets. They're not accessible. These are the real figures here, 631,000. It's not a king's ransom we're dealing with here. It's money set aside for future major repairs. We're going to try and build that up over the next few years. So, just give you a better feel of what it is we see as the important statistics in the statutory accounts. See that bit at the bottom there, total cash and near cash. These figures are just lifted from the statutory accounts, but just laid out to try and get a better feel of what we tend to monitor and feel what we're highlighting to you guys. Right, I think that's it. Balance sheet for another year. Okay. Any questions? Technology. Is it? What is that? Is it? It's coming out here. It's working. Right. Okay. I'm going to get speakers on the point. I keep threatening to do that. Right. Okay, thanks very much.
Thanks, Jerry. Can I have someone to propose the adoption of the accounts, please? Could I have a seconder, please?
Can you see it here?
What's your name, sorry?
I'm
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. The Management Committee now wish to recommend the reappointment of French Duncan as auditors for the Association. So could I have a first approver, please? And a seconder? Thank you. I'm now going to pass you on to Irene again for the election of committee members.
Hi, the committee members that are standing down this year are Mrs McKelvey, Mr Vaz, Mrs Dunn and Mrs McGowan, and they wish to be they're seeking re-election. Mrs Irene Ferguson has been nominated for election, and that means there are 8 places available and only 5 nominations, so the nominations are declared elected, so it means we've got 3 spares that we're looking to fill tonight.
She's dead scary. Well, we'll be pleased to know that that concludes the formal part of the meeting, so we now go on to the awards ceremony. And I'd like to invite Linda McGowan to present the first award, please, and Rob will read the winner.
Okay. Some of the people in the front may be here for this bit, rather than the statutory accounts, I think. Didn't look too interested in the balance sheet. Anyway, nobody was, so don't worry. So the first one is the Primary School Achievement Award, and for those of you that come every year, you'll know that this is an award of £100 in vouchers to the young person who wins it along with the school, and £1,000 to their school, which the school can use for whatever purposes it wishes within reason, as long as it's not the teacher's night out. And it's made on the basis of any achievement which brings credit to the school, the Reidvale community, or the pupil themselves. These things are always very difficult. We do have a sort of fairly independent judging panel, which is Jane and myself. Who else do we have this year? Oh yes, we have somebody from the schools, and we have Sheila Wardle from the doctor's surgery, so we try and have a nice range of people picking these. It's always very difficult, particularly the primary school ones who are always all worthy of something. So, runners-up were Kyle Phillips from Alexandra Parade Primary, Michael, as you know, is a master of making things work. Lewis Fern from Alexandra Parade Primary. Daniel Fleming from Caulfield Primary. Jay Logan from Caulfield Primary. Okay, so we come to the winner. Just read a wee bit of the nomination. Nominations are usually much longer than this, but this is just an extract. The nomination from the school said, "He's a kind and caring boy who always goes the extra mile when monitoring the infant classes. He always applies himself to the task and has reaped the benefits of this to achieve success. He deserves recognition for the life-changing achievements he has made this year. He's travelled an often difficult road and come out of it a shining example to children who find themselves in a similar situation." And the winner of the Primary School Achievement Award 2012 is Lee McCulloch.
We now move on to the Secondary Education Awards, and if I could ask Helen Moore to come up, please.
Okay. The Secondary School Educational Attainment Award goes to a young person resident of Reidvale attending a local secondary school, and this award recognises achievement in personal, academic, cultural or social terms. And the big hike in your rent this year was so we could increase this award. So the award this year is, from henceforth, is £750 in vouchers to the winner. And the runners-up, and I should say that Whitehill Secondary are away at Alton Towers today, so I'm not sure if many of the people from Whitehill will be able to attend tonight. One of the first runner-up was Ciara Cole from Whitehill Secondary. Amy Lawson from Whitehill Secondary. She's away at Alton Towers, and Stephen Talbot he's away at Alton Towers. Stephen Talbot also from Whitehill Secondary. The nomination for this year's winner said he achieved a bronze certificate in the UK-wide Junior Mathematical Challenge, in which 250,000 young people took part. And among other things, he has received the Millennium Youth Volunteer Award. His most endearing trait is his modesty and his desire to use his skills to help others. The winner of the Educational Attainment Award 2012 is Edward Fitzpatrick from St Albans Academy.
Thanks, Helen. The next awards are our bursaries, and I'd like to invite Christine Haddon up to present them, please.
Okay, and again, you may know if you come regularly that we give up to 5 bursaries each year to young people or older people. You don't have to be a young person, just most people are young people out of school. And resident in Reidvale will obtain a place at university or a diploma course at a further education college. There's various levels of awards here. The award is £750 per year throughout the duration of the course for those going to university, £300 per year for a college diploma course, and £150 a year for a college certificate course. So we're making 2 awards tonight. The first one again is lighted by the Whitehill Secondary visit to Alton Towers. It's Amy Wardle, who's going to Glasgow University to study pharmacology. And the second one is George Edgar, who's going to City of Glasgow College to study sports coaching.
Thanks, Christine. Our final awards are our Good Neighbour Awards, so I'd like to invite Mrs Dunn to come up and give them.
Reidvale has been nominated by his or her neighbours. And again, this is always a very difficult one to shortlist and judge. This is different from the other awards in that the shortlist is drawn up by the housing officers after they've talked to the people who made the nominations, and the shortlist is then discussed by the committee anonymously, so nobody knows who we're talking about, and the committee make that selection, so the staff are not involved in the actual selection at all. This year we got 32 nominations, so it was difficult getting onto the shortlist, and I don't usually actually read out the citations about runners-up, but it was exceptionally close this year, and I'd just like to read a wee bit about the first runner-up. And a neighbour said, this is somebody who came to Reidvale, she actually comes from abroad. I didn't know the Reidvale area or anyone in the community when I moved here, but my neighbour put a welcome note and a Christmas card through my door and has helped me make my house a home for me and my son. And I think that's really something that we like about Reidvale. And that neighbour, that runner-up, was Roseanne McCullough from 165 Belfield Street. From 42 Duke Street. And the final runner-up is Mary Tannehill from 90 Belgrove Street. Tell you that the run-up prizes have gone up as well. They're up to £100 now, and the Good Neighbour Award is also up to £750. It's not just secondary school, but benefiting residents as well. So the winner of the Reidvale Housing Association Good Neighbour Award 2012 was nominated by an elderly neighbour who said, "I will be eternally grateful for the help and comfort she provided when I collapsed in my home. Her presence is a source of continued reassurance for myself and my family." And Reidvale Good Neighbour of the Year 2012 is Angela Kuhn of 23 Garfield Street.
Have tea and things in the cafe. I just want to quickly mention the park at Whitevale and Bluevale Street. I don't know if you know, but the youth club have taken over that park. They're getting funding and things for it, so there's actually plans in there, in the cafe and in the main foyer. If you want to have a look at it while you're having your tea. Okay, I'll see you after the break. Thank you.